Today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade Bolognese sauce with Tuttorosso tomatoes. Let's go. So here's some of what goes into it. Of course, Tuttorosso tomatoes, and look at these, they're just spectacular. I've got chuck, Italian sausage, and beef. But here's the thing, you can totally do veal, you can totally do pork, not pork. The point is you can change it up and feel free to. You start with a mirepoix, and I'm actually gonna cook it in some bacon just to add that nice smokiness. And of course I'm infusing not only with chicken stock, but red wine. Now, if you're doing Whole30, you can totally skip the wine. We use both balsamic and a sherry vinegar, which are both compliant. So many ways to make it, and let's just change it up and do it every way. Here's the chuck. You want to look at where the natural line is. There's a natural line here, so that's going to be a great place to cut it. And it's going to be different for every piece of chuck. So if there's a big piece of fat like this, I mean, here's the thing, fat equals flavor, but if there's a big piece of fat like that, I think I'm just gonna get crazy and cut that off. And then here's another natural way. I'm just gonna do it like this, and this one's much easier. What I'm gonna do is salt and pepper it well. Of course, flip it on the other side, and then we're gonna get that sauteing up on the stove and getting it seared. So we're gonna sear the chuck, and I've got my Dutch oven. Let's get that oil nice and hot, and I've got this salted up like I showed you, and then we're just gonna sear it all sides, and guess what? It just takes as long as it takes. So it's nice and warm, and let's just put that in, and we're just gonna watch it. It's great to follow a recipe, but you've gotta start to understand how cooking works, and also follow some of your own rules, and part of that means definitely making mistakes. So what you want to do is sear on all the sides, and once it looks like that and you're getting kind of a nice brown crust, here's the thing, we are going to cook it for a very long time. This is slow cooking, and I love slow cooking, but I just love slow cooking on the stove. So we've got everything's nice and braised, nice and seared, and now let's put it aside, and we're going to move to the next part of the recipe. So I'm going to add oil, and then I'm just going to get these crispy bits, and we're going to add some bacon. Okay, and we're gonna use the mirepoix and put it right in and cook it with the bacon, and it's gonna be fantastic. So there were some of the crispy bits, and what I'm doing is just absorbing all of this and that beautiful flavor with the bacon and the mirepoix, and we're gonna get this cooked up for about 7-8 minutes. It's gonna be lovely. So I'm adding the garlic now. You could add it in the beginning, but I don't want it to burn, and you wanna really watch it. So now let's add it. Let's stir it up and make sure it's really gonna get cooked before we go to the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the bacon now because we don't need it. It flavored everything up. And let's add this, and whatever sizes you want. I don't want tiny little pieces, but you don't want giant meatballs either. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the sausage out of the casing, because what you want is the lovely sausage, but we don't need this at all. And then you're gonna just make sure they're not round. Just start pushing them in. Why not round? It's a personal preference thing. I don't want things to look like meatballs. Then what you're gonna do is moving with speed all over the pan. And here's the thing, this is the great part. Let's say you don't use pork. You can do all beef. There's so many ways to change it up, and you can do it with chicken. So of course there's an exact recipe to follow, and you can do that. I like to measure out my salt, and then on each step, I just like to salt some. And we wanna kind of just get all of this mixed up. We're letting this cook up, and what I keep doing is kind of scraping the bottom because all these lovely juices, I don't want it to totally build up, and I want to infuse all of this in the meat. I took a bite. Oh my gosh, it's so delicious. So it's been 5 minutes, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna add wine to deglaze. I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. Let's get that all stirred, and we wanna see some of that kind of evaporate a bit. So I'm gonna add it here, and why do I add it here? Because I really want it to dissolve. And what I'm gonna do is stir this up, let it dissolve, and then I'm gonna add it here and just stir like crazy. So I'm using 1.5 cans of these Tuttorosso tomatoes, which are so beautiful. And now the fun part, I'm gonna blend. So let's take a minute and look. You see how we sauteed the beef in here, and we created our own sort of beef stock, and the chicken stock just adds to that loveliness. Of course, if you want to do beef stock, absolutely do it, but there's nothing like homemade chicken stock. Now this is the important part. We cook for a long time, so this is where it takes a little bit of patience. I put the Tuttorosso tomatoes in there. I'm gonna add some balsamic. And if you're not drinking wine, you can just do balsamic. So now I'm gonna add the beef, and this really has to cook. This chuck has to cook for a long time, and it's gonna add something so delicious. I'm gonna get rid of that bacon. It's gonna add something so fantastic. Okay, last step, bay leaf, and then this beautiful beef juice that I got. Oh, never get rid of that. You know that's a no crumbs left regular. And then let's put this on. We're gonna have to watch it, and we're gonna let it simmer for a long time. So I took the cover right back off because what I want to do is make sure that this is all really having a nice simmer, and it's pretty much there. And then what I'm going to do is cover it and watch it. But it's really going to cook for about 3 hours. So let's turn it down and cover. So I've just taken the lid off, and this is what it looks like. It's been cooking 2 hours. If you can believe it, we're going to cook it 3 because what we want to do is let this get really tender, and then we're going to pull apart that meat and add it to the sauce, and it becomes something fabulous. I'll tell you the thing about this is it's always best the next day. So this is a perfect do ahead, perfect for a gift, for a new mother that you're making a meal for, spectacular, but best on day 2 always. So it's been simmering for 3 hours. Oh, look at that color. Isn't it amazing? Now what we're gonna do is take this out. I have a board set up over here, and you really just want everything to pull apart. And this is a great time just to take with a fork. So you just really take the fork and you pull it apart. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this back in the sauce, and it's gonna thicken everything up and be absolutely divine. And I think the fork part, frankly, is the most fun. So while pulling this, you might notice like you come across a big piece of fat. And chuck has a lot of fat, and that makes it delicious, but there are some times where it's like, oh, I just wanna get that off. So what you can do is pull off fat you don't like, and then keep pulling apart. Finished product, doesn't it look great? You can do it gluten-free on top of polenta, or just enjoy a bowl of it. And